Hello, you're tuning in to VTV News, brought to you live from Hanoi. I'm Michael Liu with the top news coming your way. 2016 Year of International Law of Vietnam reviewed by diplomacy academics. Then later on, Vietnam's textile market develops regardless of US withdrawal from TPP. And finally, let's take a look back at 2016 in review. First off, Prime Minister Nguyễn Xuân Phúc chaired the Cabinet meeting for December on Thursday. At the event, leaders of the government, ministries and sectors discussed the appraisal reports of the 5 draft decrees on functions, tasks, authority and organisational structure of the State Bank of Vietnam, Committee for Ethnic Affairs and several ministries. The same day, the government office reported on the Prime Minister's approval of the Ministry of Health's proposal on increasing health service fees for localities. The Ministry of Justice reported on the legislative agenda for 2016 and tasks for 2017. Ho Chi Minh City's authorities conducted a conference to discuss strategies and targets for socio-economic development in 2017 this morning. Economists have set the target's growth for the new year to be higher than this year, despite making $13.1 billion in budget revenue, a record high in 5 years. Experts have pointed out the major challenges that still exist, such as environmental pollution and traffic congestion. Local authorities have shown determination to renovate and reform regulatory aspects of the economy and create more favourable conditions for investors. Moreover, the city plans to digitise 100% of government organisations and public services next year. A feedback channel is expected to be incorporated into the system next year as well. A single window model is scheduled to be applied for all document processing also. Moving on to some other news. Now, in the context of globalization, international law plays an extremely important role and is indispensable in regulating international relations. Vietnam has actively contributed to promoting the role of law at the international level, as well as supporting the legal diplomatic process and promoting the codification and development of international law. These were the issues on focus at the Talk Vietnam 2016 International Law Year held at the Diplomatic Academy on the 29th of December. The speakers reviewed important events related to the international law of Vietnam in 2016.
On September the 17th, 2016, the Vietnam International Law Association was officially established. The association was established with one of the major directions being to follow and develop international law to effectively protect the interests of the country.
The mission of the Vietnam International Law Association is to develop international law so that we can have an international law directory that other countries can access when they want to study Vietnam's international laws. It is also so that we have Vietnamese arbitrators and judges who can settle disputes between foreign parties and our country.
Another event that was also an important landmark of international law was that this year marked the first time Vietnam has had a representative in the United Nations International Law Commission on the 3rd of November 2016 at the 71st session of the UN General Assembly. Vietnam's candidate Ambassador Nguyễn Hồng Thao was elected a member of ILC with a tenure from 2017 to 2021. Participation in the International Law Commission is a big opportunity for Vietnam to build, train and develop a team of their legal experts.
With a 5-year term, I plan that in the first year, we can begin to get acquainted with the work of Commission. In the succeeding years, we will start addressing Vietnam's initiatives as well as other developing countries, representing the region. If possible, we will move forward to register this rapporteur as one of the main reports on the draft of the UN Convention.
In 2016, It was also the first time Vietnam hosted the Asian Society of International Law Conference and officially became a member state of the International Development Law Organization. With the progress of international law industry, Vietnam will have more legal tools to be able to implement foreign policies for peace and stability and for the sustainable development of the country.
Now, according to the Vietnam Food Association, the Philippines Food Authority has allowed businesses to import more than 293,000 tons of rice from Vietnam. This import has ensured the increased food demands for pre-harvest season in 2017 from the Philippines. However, this information was just announced by the Philippines and has not yet assigned specific targets for Vietnamese businesses. Therefore, Vietnam's enterprises have yet to reach them. At the end of August, Vietnam also won a contract to provide 150,000 tons of rice for the Philippines with good prices at nearly $425 per ton. However, this does not impact the domestic rice market since the contract demand is small compared to the current supply rice reserves. Now, though the US has decided to withdraw from the TPP agreement, Vietnamese textile enterprises are carefully taking steps to re-evaluate the situation and are prepared to exploit foreign markets, including the US. However, according to Vietnam's textile businesses, this move will not affect the development of the markets since Vietnam has already had a strong wave of foreign investment into the industry. The following report from Thừa Thiên Huế province will tell us more.
As the leading enterprise of Huế and the central region, Huế Textile Garment Stock Company under the Vietnam National Textile and Garment Group, or Vinatex, has one spinning factory, one weaving dyeing factory, and garment factories that meet close production processes, from the production of raw material to finished products. According to Huế textile leaders, the key is product quality and the fastest response, noting that the company's market does not depend on and is not affected by US withdrawal from the Trans-Pacific Agreement.
Actually, there is not much impact. Currently, we have received orders until June 2017.
Huế is the largest production region of fiber textile of the Vietnam National Textile and Garment Group, or Vinatex, with three main fiber businesses, namely Phu Bai Fiber, Phu Hưng and Huế Textile. Huế has the greatest advantage of having a seaport, a large local labor force, so US withdrawal from the TPP will not affect the textile units in Huế or Vietnamese textiles garment, even though the US is the #1 export market for Vietnam textile.
Huế will be one market to develop raw materials. The beginning of the supply chain of the textile industry acts like a tractor for garment enterprises in the north-central region. We have assigned Vinatex to develop high-quality, high-value products.
TPP will bring advantages for Vietnam if ratified by member countries. But in the context of the TPP being abolished, the textile business will not narrow its productions since the textile market is quite large. Vietnam remains attractive to investors due to its open economy. There are many agreements with 0% tax rate from the WTO and FTA. This will be an opportunity for textile enterprises to actively prepare for the complete supply chain, increasing competitiveness and adding value for Vietnam's textile.
Now, as the new year is fast approaching, let's take a look back at the highlights of the Vietnamese IT and science sector in 2016. The first and most notable event on the list is the attack on Vietnam Airlines computer system in late July. Cyber criminals hacked into the system and defused flight information displays, affecting over 100 flights of Vietnam Airlines, resulting in 1 to 15-hour delays for many flights. Nội Bài and Nhật international airports were the targets of this attack. This was considered a serious breach of cyber security and caused great concern for the government. The second highlight of the year is Sam Media's 230 billion Vietnamese dong scam of Vietnamese mobile phone users. On the bright side, Thomson Reuters announced 5 Vietnamese scientists who have made it on the list of the most influential scientists in the world. However, this year Vietnam successfully produced a rubella vaccine as well. Now, Vice President Dang Thi Ngọc Thich has emphasized that the country's future depends on the younger generations, particularly young scientists. She made the remarks at a meeting on Wednesday with young people who have been honored for their contribution to science and technology. Speaking at the reception, the Vice President praised the award winners. The awards were initiated in 2003 to honor 10 outstanding young people in information technology. Since 2011, the awards were expanded to IT and communication, medicine and pharmaceuticals, the environment and biotechnology. Now, an osteomalacia patient was successfully cured for the first time in Vietnam. Osteomalacia refers to the softening of the bone and is one of the rarest diseases in the world. For over 40 years, this 54-year-old patient has suffered 8 bone breakages in multiple places. Even after seeking treatments from many places, including Singapore, the patient still had not received an accurate diagnosis of the disease. However, the medical staff at Chợ Rẫy Hospital in Ho Chi Minh City made the discovery and has successfully treated the patient by providing a specific amount of phosphorus and vitamin D. The patient is now in stable condition. Now, there has been a positive response from the public in the years since the Ministry of Health began reforms to improve the attitudes of staff in the sector. Let's see how the plan has improved professionalism in patient care in the following report.
Waiting room seats, water and staff to answer any queries have been provided for patients when they visit hospitals. In addition, hospitals have improved their hygiene standards for toilets, so patients experience far better hospital visits.
I had an operation 5 years ago, but this time I think the quality of service is much better. The toilet facilities are cleaner as well.
This year, the Ministry of Health dealt with more than 6,000 staff due to complaints. In some cases, medical staff had to resign due to their behavior, such as financial extortion and lack of respect towards patients. These examples show the determination to challenge the behavior of officials and medical personnel.
A recent survey conducted by the Health Strategy and Policy Institute shows encouraging results, with 89.8% of patients being satisfied with the services provided by medical staff. I think the most fundamental change is staff awareness. Our staff understand that changing attitude is not just an obligation, it's in their interest as well, because good attitudes are associated with more patients, which means more revenue, and this directly affects their incomes.
We abide by the pledge to work on behalf of our patients. This is a prerequisite for the development of the health sector and hospitals in Vietnam.
The health minister has said that hospital ratings are dependent on patient evaluation. Therefore, patient satisfaction will be a primary target for the health sector as a whole and each and every employee in the sector.
So how's the Vietnamese dong performing at the moment? Let's find out in our following charts. Still to come on VTV News, let's find out how climate change has affected the lives and production of people in Vietnam. And later on, let's take some time to look back at 2016 in review. More to come in just a moment. Now, 10 of 13 provinces went on record this year highlighting the severe fate of natural disasters. The Mekong Delta was hit by the worst drought in nearly a century, combined with rising sea levels. Nearly all 13 provinces in Mekong Delta have been severely affected by drought and salinity. More than 1 million people have experienced water shortages The record cold spell that brought unprecedented snow and frost to parts of 11 provinces in northern and north-central coast of Vietnam made life miserable for poor households. In related news, after a year of severe weather conditions with a shortage of fresh water and severe saline intrusion, local farmers in the Mekong Delta region have faced difficulties in production and living conditions. The following report will record how climate change has affected the local farmers.
During April, farmers in the Mekong Delta suffered the most severe saline intrusion for almost a century. 208,800 hectares of rice field from late 2015 and early 2016 were severely damaged.
Local farmers have faced many difficulties in rice production, planting and shrimp farming. These have caused severe losses for poor farmers.
In Lic Hội Thượng Commune, many farmers have left their hometown to earn a living. After the drought and salinity crisis passed, Sien's family members had to depend on the crops sold for 45 days.
I'm 60 years old now. I have not seen severe weather conditions like this. It caused big losses to us, especially rice production. We can't earn a living without rice production.
The impact of climate change and freak weather has become increasingly apparent. With what seems a continual trend, it is forecasted that Vietnam will suffer extremely hot temperatures in summer as well as winter. This means increased flooding and heavy rains during the rice season in the north, northwest and central region. Better preparations and adaptation to climate change and potential disasters will only go some way to mitigating the effect of this harsh situation.
The severe flooding in mid-November caused serious damage to agriculture in the central region. A seminar on restoring agriculture after the floods on December 29th looked back at practical solutions to restore production for the winter-spring crops. More to follow.
5 consecutive floods have devastated 95,000 hectares of rice and other plants in the central provinces. Farmers have started restoring agricultural production for the winter-spring crops.
We're behind schedule for the next crops due to the rainy season. Therefore, the provinces need to prepare the right types of rice varieties, especially short-day varieties for the next summer-autumn crop.
Some 4,300 tons of rice seed are required to restore production in the central provinces.
The local authorities have supported local farmers to buy new rice varieties for production. The province has also worked with rice companies and retailers to lower prices and ensure quality of rice varieties.
The increasingly complex situation has caused severe damage to local agriculture. The Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development has submitted a new policy to the Prime Ministers, helping central provinces adapt to the current situation.
The chairman of the Provincial People's Committee will decide the level of assistance based on the province finances. I think that this is an ideal moment for the government to respond to this situation.
According to the National Center for Hydrometeorological Forecasting, there will be continued heavy rain and severe floods in the coming time.
Moving on to the historical sector, a historical relic which is associated with a memorable period of the country is now being forgotten. That's the story of the Kim Sơn Village Temple in Kiến Thụy District, Hải Phòng City. Caretakers of the relic and local authorities are now hoping for a restoration of the relic so that various cultural and historical values will not fade into oblivion.
Dinh Xuân Mui has been taking care of the Kim Sơn Village Temple revolutionary relic for 11 years. He always enjoys guiding visitors to the relic, telling them historical stories and showing them photos and artifacts. However, the number of visitors to the site have been dwindling.
People aren't very interested in stories related to this relic. In a year, people only remember the anniversary day of Kim Son Village uprising against the Japanese army. People are now too busy earning their living.
Kim Son Village Temple was built about 500 years ago, and Kim Son Revolutionary Relic was formed during the Resistance War against Japanese fascists in 1936. The drumbeat of Kim Son became a symbol that marked the start of the August Revolution in 1945, with pictures of farmers' uprising, war memorabilia and historical figures. Now all of them are fading into oblivion. Most of the area is used as a storage for the village.
Local infrastructure cannot meet the demand for saving historical artifacts, so this relic is not open every day. We already receive visitors who contact us in advance.
These days, this 4,000 square meter relic is welcoming fewer and fewer visitors. Restoration and investments to raise public awareness of this historical site may be necessary.
Now, 2016 is drawing to an end, marking a year full of Vietnam's successes and achievements in various fields such as politics, foreign affairs, trade, culture and more. Our final report provides a look back at some of the country's most notable events of the year, before you welcome the year 2017 with positive new prospects.
The 12th National Congress of the Communist Party of Vietnam concluded successfully in Hanoi on January the 28th. Party General Secretary Nguyen Phu Trọng was re-elected unanimously in the 12th tenure. Delegates discussed in a candid and democratic manner and unanimously passed important documents, including the political report and a report evaluating the implementation of socio-economic tasks.
In the past year, many serious economic and corruption cases went on trial, and a series of violations in personnel work were brought to light, with a number of senior officials being disciplined. The fourth plenary meeting of the 12th Party Central Committee issued a resolution on enhancing the party building and rectifying work. A range of specific and drastic measures were deployed, receiving the positive response from officials, party members and the people.
Vietnamese cast ballots on May the 22nd to elect deputies to the 14th National Assembly and People's Councils. The election was the largest ever in scale, with nearly 68 million voters across the country. The National Assembly deputies then elected Mr. Trần Đại Quang as the state president, Mr. Nguyễn Xuân Phúc as the prime minister, and Madam Nguyễn Thị Kim Ngân as the National Assembly chairwoman for the 2016-2021 tenure. All these top leaders performed swearing-in ceremonies before taking their positions.
Vietnam saw some significant achievements in the foreign affairs in 2016. For many Vietnamese, U.S. President Barack Obama's visit was a highlight in the country's foreign affairs landscape in 2016. High-ranking leaders from countries such as Cambodia, Laos, India, France and Ireland also visited the country. In multilateral relations, Vietnam continued to promote its role as an active and responsible member of the international community. As the host of the 8th Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar and Vietnam Summit, Vietnam proposed many initiatives to help upgrade infrastructure, filling the gaps between ASEAN 4 and ASEAN 6 for a stronger ASEAN community. In international forums, for the first time, Vietnam was invited to join the extended G7 summit in Japan. The presence of Vietnam to discuss international issues with highly industrialized countries heightened the country's role in the international community.
Vietnam posted a 6.21% GDP growth in 2016. higher than the rates recorded by many developing countries in Asia and Southeast Asia. Foreign currency reserves hit a record of $41 billion, while revenues to the state's budget met target. The disbursement of foreign direct investment hit a record of $15.8 billion. Export value increased 6.8% and export surplus reached $2.68 billion.
Vietnam's efforts to preserve and promote its cultural heritages during 2016 paid off when the Vietnamese belief in mother goddesses of the three realms was officially been recognized by UNESCO as an intangible cultural heritage of humanity. The worshipping mother goddesses is based on a form of worshipping of the mother's incarnation in the nature to respect the role of women in the society. Since the 16th century, the practice of worshipping mother goddesses has become an important religious and cultural activity in the society.
In 2016 saw a surge of sporting achievements for Vietnam in international competitions, especially two first-ever Olympic and Paralympic gold medals. Hoàng Xuân Vinh, a 41-year-old Army colonel, made history in Rio, Brazil, and won gold medal in the men's 10-meter air pistol. Meanwhile, another Vietnamese athlete also made history at the 2016 Rio Paralympics, weightlifter 11 Kong's final attempt in the men's 49-kilogram Paralympic weightlifting competition helped him secure the country's first ever Paralympic gold medal as he finished the competition with a new world record of 183 kilograms.
Now, just before we say goodbye, let's take a look at the latest weather forecast of selected cities around the world. Now that has wrapped up this edition of VTV News. Please log on to vtv4.vn or youtube.com/VTV4Go for more of our content. Goodbye for now and thanks for stopping by.